Hello and welcome back to At the Power Table podcast, where we are breaking barriers and building the future together. Here at the Power Table podcast, we are very much a believer that if we are going to get the energy transition right, we need to bring everyone on the journey. So today we are doing something a teeny tiny bit different. Our guest today is the brilliant Chloe Osawe, who is the studio manager at our podcast studio and has listened to our podcast. Chloe is not in the energy industry and has no real exposure to the industry except for the podcast. And that is exactly the type of people we need to be bringing into the conversation. And that's what we're doing today. We're bringing everybody into the conversation because this is everybody's conversation, and that's why we're creating that platform for it. Chloe has very gracefully shared her perspectives of the industry as a consumer, and then has asked the questions that anyone who isn't part of the industry would like to ask. If I'm being completely honest, I thought Chloe was going to ask really simple questions that I could easily answer, but they were actually really difficult questions. And I think this is going to be a really fun episode, one for people in the industry to get the perspective of what the consumer thinks, how they think, what are the questions that they have, and the things we need to be teaching people more of. And then also from a consumer perspective, hopefully this helps you and gives you some answers that maybe you've had. We are very keen to continue this conversation and make sure we're bringing as many people into the conversation as possible. So if you do have any additional questions that Chloe might not have asked, please do ask us. We might not have all the answers, as you will tell in the podcast, but we will try. And if we don't know, then we can link you up to really smart people in the energy industry. So ask us your questions, connect with us, let us know what you think of the episode, if you'd like more episodes like this, or if we should just be speaking to the energy experts and giving you some expert advice. As always, like, subscribe, let us know what you think, and hope you enjoy. Bye! I've realized is that I know you as Chloe, and in my head I know you as Chloe Babes.
Yeah, you call me Babes a lot.
I do call you Babes a lot. I call lots of people Babes a lot. I shouted at someone on the train because he pushed me, and I was like, "Babes, calm down." So I apologize for that, but I don't actually know your surname.
Osawe.
Is that Nigerian?
It's a Nigerian name. It's an Edo tribe name. And my family are part of the Osawe kingdom. So it's not this great. It's not just West Europe that has kings and queens. There's a lot of tribes and stuff within Africa as a whole. And we have our own little dynasty going on as well. So indirectly, the Osawes were a royal family in our tribe, basically.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah, we're part of it. So yeah.
That's really cool. What does it mean?
Osawe itself, I actually don't know what it means.
Yeah.
But my Nigerian name, so Chloe is my first name, is on my passport, my first name, I'm my birth certificate. But my Nigerian name that my whole family calls me is Esosa. And that means blessing or God's gift. It can also be interpreted to a saying like, nothing will ever pass you. So like anything you want in this life, you will have it. Doesn't matter how long, how many trials and tribulations, it will come to you.
I mean, if you've listened to the podcast, you know that I have a great appreciation for Nigerian people and just the culture
even just the naming culture, like the names.
Every tribe has a different way of naming. I mean, the biggest tribe is Yoruba. So a lot of the time when you hear the diaspora, the majority of the time you hear Yoruba names. But with other tribes, like my dad's Edo and my mum's Urobo. And I find the way the Yoruba tribe, how they name their children very interesting. They name them due to the situation at hand.
Okay.
So like, for example, I think my grandma's sister, she kept on having miscarriages and she finally had a daughter, and I believe her name is Jite, but Jite and it's extended, but we call her Jite. I don't know how to pronounce the rest. But it basically means like, this is it, this is my own. Actually, I finally have it, it's mine. Yeah. Like you'll go to a particular person, maybe like an elder in the village or someone who knows how to name names, and they'll put it together and they'll create a name for your circumstance. Yeah.
Oh, that's so
really
beautiful.
Cool. Yeah.
That is really beautiful.
Yeah.
I love
there's
that.
common names, but like you can also make it as unique as you want.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah.
What a treat. So, Chloe Osawe, thank you so much for taking a seat at the power table. At the power table, I was like, what's the power table? What is this called again? So, a little background into Chloe Babes, because that's what she's now called. Chloe Babes, also she's going to get a passport updated. Chloe Babes is actually the person making the magic behind the scenes for At the Power Table podcast. So all of our episodes have been recorded by Chloe, have been timed by Chloe, have been made sure we're not speaking complete BS. And Chloe has no real exposure into the energy industry except for the fact, yes, she has been forced to listen to the podcast.
I'll consider myself an SME now in energy. In energy.
This is why we have you on the podcast. So why I'm keen to have Chloe on the podcast is, one, because you've never had any interaction with energy. And I think those are exactly the people we need to be having energy conversations with, because you represent the consumer. So it's great to have industry conversations, great to talk to people to learn more, but it's also important to talk to the people we want to bring along onto the journey.
Yeah.
So I think maybe just first question before we deep dive into all of the great energy stuff and test your SME capabilities so that people can hire you for the future. Tell us about yourself, Chloe.
Well, as Zenobia said, all Zenobia's content is recorded here. Here meaning my content studio, Haven Talk Studios. I have 2 studios, one here in South London, another one in East London, and 5 sets in total. So that is my small business venture that I have been going on for almost 3 years now. And I'm still going, we're still happening, but small business stuff is tough. My corporate background is in recruitment. Currently, I work for a facility management company that works with the Ministry of Justice. And I recruit for all the prisons in Kent and Sussex. So I have about 9 prisons under my region. And it's very client-based and not much candidate-driven. It's more like operations and strategizing and things of that nature when it comes to the recruitment realm. And I'll have a history in the recruitment as well for like 6-7 years now. So I'm a very blended person. I would say I'm a jack of many trades, and I love the operational side of things, of anything I do, my corporate side. And the reason why I have a content series is because I love creativity. I started off by having a podcast myself and noticed at the time, I mean, now London is popping with content studios, I must say, well done to everyone. But at the time when I was podding, there wasn't many that had much like aesthetic and affordability at the same time. And I always wanted to have a business venture. I had multiple fails before this. And I said, I want to give it a try. And this is the one that stuck. And we're here now.
Stunning. Well, we're really glad that we're here now because we get to have the great couch.
Yes.
It's becoming a prominent feature of the podcast.
Yes.
So you're stuck with us now.
Yeah.
Stuck listening to all the energy conversations. It's really interesting that you have that recruitment background, and we'll touch on some of that later in the podcast, because we often ask our guests the question around what is the skills gap in the energy industry, what do we need to do, what do we need to change, etc. So given that you are no energy industry experience, but you've listened to the podcast, very keen to get, what are your perspectives?
I'm more of, if they had a book called Energy for Dummies, that's a bit me. You don't really think about the infrastructure of energy. You just think of the way you turn on the lights and you have light. Even the way you just do certain things, you drive your car, you put on the fan, you just do random things. You're not thinking about how this is generated, how it's monetized, how it's innovated over time. You don't think at all. And I think from listening to this podcast behind the scenes, I think people like myself need to stop using ignorance as an excuse. I think it's an area that people should have knowledge on. I think this can help them on a day-to-day, because as we know, we had the energy crisis within the last 2 years, I think, which impacted us a lot, especially me. Like, I'm currently in the moving process of housing simply because of the energy. Where before the energy crisis, I was paying £90 a month on electric, and which was fine. It went up to £270 a month.
What?
Yes, crazy. And I kind of felt hopeless, because when you talk to these energy people and they're giving you all these statistics and words and jargons I don't understand.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take your professionalism as, gospel and go from there. And yeah, and a lot of people are in that position. I have a friend who had a little 1-bedroom flat. They were paying about £60 a month, and now they're paying like £140 a month. It's, these are the day-to-day consumer things that we go through, and we're actively impacted on a day-to-day by it. So it's nice to hear how, so far in your conversation with your guest, how their jobs helps tackle these things. But I think what I would love to learn today is just understanding the basics for a consumer perspective, because I think that's where my interest lies in this whole ecosystem of energy.
I am a little afraid. I am not an expert.
Yes.
Okay. But I'm going to try and answer as best as possible. And if we find any issues or any questions that we can't answer, then we'll find out together.
Yeah.
Does that work for you?
Should be fine.
I do, before we go into questions, want to touch on something you said of like people need to be held accountable to learn about the energy and where your energy comes from. I personally love the energy industry, so I'm very biased and I'm like, yes, of course.
Yeah.
But like, if I wasn't, objectively speaking, I don't think I could be asked.
Before this podcast, I couldn't be asked. But I think the reason knowledge is free, and you don't know that you knowing this information can help you at any point, somewhere, somehow. If I knew a little bit more about maybe the tariffs or the political change about this energy thing at the time, I could have probably tackled my rise in my bill a bit better. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm just ignorant to the system, like, okay, I guess I'll pay this now. Yeah. There's things like that. And that's just me. Maybe I'm just speaking for myself. But I think for the massive, oh, sorry, got hungry. For the masses, I generally think it's not a mandatory thing to learn, but it's just a good skill. Yeah. And why not add to your skill set if it's free, especially? Yeah.
I think what you've touched on is what's in it for me. And that's the positioning that we're probably not getting right yet, because then you would have had this information to hand and you would have sought that information. It's the what's in it for me. And yes, you would have had more information to say, actually, if I vote for this person, their policies are this, and therefore that impacts me on a day-to-day in that way. So I agree.
Yeah.
So then handing over to you. From listening to the podcast as a basic, and there's no question that's too simple. Please ask the simple questions. What are the questions that have come up for you?
With tariffs, I don't know the name of the particular tariffs I'm referring to, but any tariffs that impacts energy, how are they calculated against energy for the consumer? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, what happens in that moment? I don't know. Well, economy is in turmoil, or a president does stuff and everyone's just like, oh my God, what do we do now? How does a company deal with that on a day-to-day?
So that's a great question. So freaking great that I don't know the answer. But I can tell you how energy works and like what I think and how it impacts, but it's not the right textbook answer. So in terms of energy generation, right, there's a value chain. Okay. So right at the beginning, there is generation. And in the generation space, that's where you generate energy. So that's your renewables, that's your coal, that's your nuclear, that's all of the stuff to make energy. So harnessing the sun's power, harnessing the wind to make energy. And then once you have that energy, it then moves to transmission. And the transmission takes it from, for example, your offshore wind farm, your wind farm in the sea, transmits it to land, right? and then it goes to distribution. So transmission is basically huge, big cables that's long distance, and it's transmitted from one place to the next, and at really high voltages. If someone touched it, they would die. So you can't use that electricity in your home. It's too high voltage. So when it goes to distribution, at distribution, it gets taken down to a usable voltage. So it goes down to lower voltage. And it gets sent to different areas. So it will go to your business, to your homes, etc. And then those homes and businesses are like governed by your retailers. So your retailers, your Octopus, your Eons, there we go.
Yeah,
your different retailers will then set that price. And that price is then set based on, you know, how we have renewables versus non-renewables. And now everyone's like, this is fully renewables or not renewable. That price, there's a fixed price attached to it. And it comes from generation plus transmission plus distribution. And that's a set price.
Who sets that original price?
So there's Ofgem, who's the regulator. And they make sure that it's not like one person is profiting entirely off these different things. And then transmission and distribution is also regulated. So they have to, for transmission and distribution being regulated, they make money is essentially they get money from Ofgem. So every 5 years they submit like this is what we need to build the grid or to transmit or distribute energy. This is how much we need, and then Ofgem will determine is that how much they're going to get or not get, and they have to stay within those costs. And within those costs, that's like your fixed tariff. So that like keeps it in that fixed space. And then there's probably slight changes based on like demand. At like higher points, if you use electricity between your peak demand points, that will obviously, because there's a higher demand and you pull in more from that, that will impact your tariff. So I think that's how it works.
Okay.
Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, the life cycle makes sense to me now. Yeah. I don't know where I thought these retailers come in. I didn't know where in the process they came in. So it's good to know how energy is really transferred for any sort of source.
And so at distribution and transmission level, those are regulated, so they can't make a huge profit. So if we're building and we're upgrading the grid, for example, it can't be just for the shits and giggles of it. It needs to be a pure case. There needs to be consumer value, and Ofgem's really good at like having robust and fair conversations with transmission owners and distribution owners to be like, show me that this is customer value. Show me that you haven't overspent. Show me that you haven't delayed. So projects incur penalties, and that goes onto the transmission and distribution networks, and they have to pay personally from their own pocket if there's delays, if there's issues along the line in terms of what they're doing and why they're doing what they're doing.
So a lot goes into it, guys. So my next question is more of a social question, and it's regarding, how do I say this now? You see, when someone attempts to discover a new form of energy or how to generate energy, and everyone starts doing conspiracy theorists and, oh my God, they're going to get you. You found a new way to make a car move. Oh my God. Do you know what I mean? Is how the general public reacts correct? Like, in terms of being, the person should be worried if they found a new form of energy, even though there's so many different types of energy already out there. Why are we worried for another one? So yeah, that's my question. So there's I don't know what he calls it. There's a guy in America. He has built some sort of mechanism in his garage. I don't know. I should have researched, but yeah, he found this new source of liquid form to put in a car.
Yeah,
and he tested it a couple of weeks ago, and it started the car.
Okay,
and the car was moving. And throughout his whole project, he was looking for funding, crowdfunding. It helped, not crazy amount, but it helped him get to where he needs to be. But there was a lot of commentary and this concern that if this new form of energy is refined to the point that it needs to be, and it generally works and saves maybe like half of petrol, this can be a great thing, but he can be in danger for it simply because of how notorious business can be when it comes, or so I've heard, when it comes to energy, because petrol is money, you know, and to lose that ability, if this person's made a better form of energy. How the people are reacting, say, oh my God, you should be worried, you need to copyright this, you need to is that a real thing, do you think, within the energy community?
Yeah, so I think there's lots of regulation in the energy industry, in the transmission, distribution, and Ofgem does a really good job from a UK perspective. I don't know enough about the US, but I think from if you just take it any business perspective, anyone who comes up with something really innovative that is going to shape any market. So, for example, if someone comes up with a new way of creating really cool podcasts or podcast studios in the virtual world, and that's really accessible to people, is it going to be a threat? Yes. Does that mean that people are going to kill you and murder your family? I don't know. That depends on the type of people you're dealing with.
Yeah.
So I can't really talk for the oil industry. There is lots of politics behind the oil industry and similarly the energy industry.
So there's a difference between oil and energy.
Yeah. So when we say energy, that is generation of electricity. So that's your fossil fuels, renewable energy. So sun, wind, geothermal. Remember, we had Lizzie Go talking on that hydropower. Sorry, Lizzie was talking about hydropowers, but you have geothermal, those types of energy. So that's like harnessing electricity.
Yeah.
And then there's also the oil and gas. So oil and gas.
That's a separate.
Yeah. Oil and gas is separate.
Okay, cool.
And then so is mining. Mining is like drills, copper, gold.
Okay. I don't know why I thought oil and gas will be a part of within the energy.
So technically you could say it's within energy because it is oil and gas.
Yeah.
And gas is partly how we heat our homes, right? It's a big part of the UK infrastructure in terms of gas and what is the future of gas and is it sustainable, etc., etc. So it is in the broader bucket of energy, but not electricity, if that makes sense.
Yeah, got you.
So I think, and there's lots of speculation around, or not speculation, lots of conversation around what's the right energy mix, how much should we have versus not have. And obviously the government has 2030 goals and what we're trying to reach. I think there's also lots of people who feel like mining / oil and gas are bad industries. But the thing is, and this is a personal perspective, to reach net zero and to transition into doing good things and having clean energy, it's important. And those sectors play a role. They're not going to play as prominent roles perhaps in the future, because, for example, like you're saying, people are developing new ways to power vehicles and so petrol becomes less important, but they still play a role. And I think that's one of the complexities around the energy industry. You know, when we talk about skills, we talk about how do you transition oil and gas people who've been working in an oil rig for their whole life to now start working in a wind farm, for example.
Okay. I guess my next question would be, there's been so many plans in trying to find better renewable energy, save the world this, save the world that, global warming this, global warming that. But in the last maybe 20 years, what do you think is the best innovative idea that's come to play when it comes to innovation, when it comes to energy?
I mean, that's a really brilliant question. I think for me, this is a very subjective question. So
your opinion.
I can only answer it from who I am as a person. And for me, I am very deeply rooted in community and that power of community. So for me, the things that draw my attention and the things that captivate me, how do we create impact? How do we help communities? And how do we do things that people benefit from? So I am an accountant by trade. I have a very commercial sense. I'm it has to make logical business sense, because I've had this conversation with myself of, am I in the right career? Should I just go full activist mode? Power to the people. Community, social justice kind of a thing. I've actually had an ex-boyfriend once tell me that I'm a social justice warrior.
I was like, that's me, that's a bit of me.
Though he didn't say it in a nice way. He was fighting with me. But anyway, that's a side problem. But for me, that's the things that I'm passionate about. I would say in relation to your question of what's the greatest innovation, and obviously I don't know every single innovation in the world, but the things that I've come across are always that have community at the center of it. And there's a lot of brilliant examples. So in the UK, I have personally been impressed, and I've seen in like my day-to-day job and through the podcast of examples of how people have come to work together on like care about doing the right thing in my career. And therefore, I'm going to do the difficult thing and I'm going to take the longer road because I care. So I've seen transmission owners, supply chain, like the regulator, the government coming together, having hard conversations, putting aside and like even different transmission owners. So the UK has 3 transmission owners.
Okay.
It's called National Grid, SSE, so Southern...
SSE I've seen, yeah.
Yeah. And then Scottish Power.
See, guys, I thought Scottish Power was just like another retailer.
The Scottish Power has transmission distribution and a retail network.
Hey, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. We learn something new every day.
Are freaking lovely people. Like the people I've met are good. But like I've seen them come together. So all 3 of them are actually competitors. So like in the transmission network, they're all competing. They're all trying to get done what they need to get done. They're all fighting for the same supply chain, for the same workforce. But they've put aside what they're trying to do and how they're trying to be competitively the best transmission owner ever. And they've been like, we have a problem, let's solve it together. So for me, that's been one of the greatest innovations I've seen that the UK get right that I don't think anyone else has gotten right quite yet.
Okay.
Is that collaboration between public sector, private sector.
It's more their corporate responsibility, to be honest. Because I think what I mean by corporate responsibility is that, yes, we're here to make profit, but your business impacts the community, impacts the world, not just your stakeholder. Your stakeholders is the people around you as well. So the fact that you've mentioned that they did come together to do that, because they could have done it individually, but I think for you, you're more impressed about the collaborative effort of all 3 of them.
Yeah. So I think that's an interesting point that you say is their corporate responsibility. So yes, there is a corporate responsibility and all corporates have that responsibility. But in my experience, corporate responsibility is a tick box exercise.
Yes.
We've done it. We've talked to the community. Cheers, we're out. Put it in the report. But this is going beyond that. So this is not just we're doing this because we have to. We're doing this because we care. So this is embedded in like day-to-day stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like truly the essence of what they're trying to do rather than it's a tick box exercise. We've come together. We've taken the photo. Please let me get out of here. So I think it's more than that.
I think it's more than that.
I think bring it back to Nigeria, like Nigerian people you would know are very entrepreneurial.
Yes. I have no choice, but I think we're entrepreneurial in spirit, but due to circumstances as well. Yeah.
And that resilience is beautiful.
Yeah.
Like that is the birth of innovation, right? It's resilience. And from resilience comes new solutions. So it's that terrible of like, it's not a challenge, it's an opportunity, that mindset and that perspective. And as an African person, I don't know who does that better than African people.
Yeah.
So I think Nigeria has really good examples. So one of the episodes that's coming out soon is Dr. Faye, also Nigerian, stunning woman. And she talks about how in her master's, she looked at a solution for how do you bring a £3,000 project working with the community, using community skills, using community knowledge, and they brought it down to £1.
How?
So it was the power of community. Using, instead of some fancy building or some fancy supplier, how can you do it as the community? What do you do? This person does. How does this person do it? If we supply it in-house, if we do this together, if we work with what we have as the community, how do we bring that down? So I think those for me are like the brilliant innovations, the stuff that I'm like, yeah.
Very cool. I love that. Energy. I think it's, what are the dying forms of energy, if there is any, and what are the upcoming forms of energy that you think is there a transition period happening right now when it comes to energy? And who's on either side of the spectrum?
Yeah, that's a really brilliant question. Previously, we had fossil fuels, just non-renewable, so your coal, etc. And the UK had lots of coal mines, and then they've shut the coal mine down, and now we're moving to renewable energy. So that's the sun, that's the wind, that's your hydropower, geothermal, nuclear, etc. All of those. So there's different energy mixes, and what the UK and the rest of the world is doing is looking at how do we transition from non-renewable to renewable so that our energy is clean. And so everyone is currently transitioning, and is what we call the race to net zero, because everyone has put their hand up and said by 2030, by 2035, by 2040, we're going to be net zero, because if we don't, there's climate change involved, and the more we use non-renewables, the more we pollute, the more it impacts the ozone layer, the more climate change impact we have. And so it's a collaborative world effort of how do we bring everyone along on the journey. And you'll hear, as a podcast, we talk about this. How do we bring everyone on the journey together? Because it's not just the UK needs to meet its targets and then we're going to solve for climate change.
Yeah.
Because if South Africa's still stuck behind, it's not like the carbon's going to be like, yeah, just only climate change is happening in South Africa because the UK met its goals.
It's a global effort.
Yeah. So I think there is a transition period for everyone in terms of up and coming and new. I think there's always, I mean, I'm not a scientist or an engineer, but there's always core principles in terms of like kinetic energy, basic science principles, chemistry principles, engineering principles, and how you put those together comes to different types of energy and different forms of energy. And it's almost just like how we working with our resources. I assume that's what your American founder did.
Yeah.
Something along kinetic energy plus mixing molecules together to get some sort of liquid going to enable like force. Yeah. I do think in terms of dying, that's a really interesting conversation. So coal has stopped in terms of the UK. So coal mines have closed and they are closing in various parts of the world at different paces. Though there is an interesting shift happening now around, is there a way to reuse those coal mines for good? So it's not just shutting them down, but it's like, can the coal mines actually be a source of energy? And how do we use what we already have? Because these are huge mines with huge capabilities. How do we use and leverage those different things? And is there something we need to do? I think there's also been conversations around, in the energy crisis, do we just revert back to coal and start it back up again? And I don't think we've had to go back to that. But there is still that reliance on it. And so it's hard to say there's a dying because it just needs to close. Like, for example, in the African context, you can't just shut it off. Like, you from Nigeria, you would know that like access isn't as free and as open. And lots of people struggle with that. So whilst there's a transition conversation, there's also a access and equity conversation. And so it isn't just a race to net zero. It's how do we just race to net, like, how do we make it show that we don't leave anyone behind? So how do we make sure that when we race to net zero, someone in a rural area in an African country, for example, in the Northern Cape, they still getting energy and they're not using your generator or your like coal-fired something, you know? So like, how do we pull everyone together? And that's the piece called just energy transition, which is saying, yes, it's about racing to net zero, but it's doing it in a way such that people who previously were relying on generators or fuel generators, how do we bring them along the journey such that they actually get clean power? So it's not just everyone who has power, let's just make it clean. Does that make sense?
Wow. I think my questions are very also one-layered, not as deep as I thought they were, clearly. But I think I've gone on ChatGPT.
I love it. I don't think your questions are one-layered, by the way.
You think they're deep? I think they're deep.
Yeah, I'm
trying to be humble.
Yeah, they were stunning. I was like, shit, these are really hard. Freak sakes. I thought you were going to ask me easy stuff, Chloe. Like,
what were you expecting from me? Right, so is renewable energy generally cheaper yet, or is it a long-term investment?
So, stunning question. Well done, ChatGPT. So, I think renewable energy is a very interesting conversation and it's a very misunderstood, mostly because, so what we have in the UK, right? So I can't speak for everyone because I only understand the UK context better than others. In the UK, we have a grid. So the grid is that transmission level, right? And that transmission level was built 50 years ago when we had the coal power stations, when we had specific things on land.
Only 50 years ago?
Yeah, only 50 years ago. So like 50 years ago, we had a grid.
Yeah.
And we designed that grid for what we needed 50 years ago. That's how we designed the grid. Imagine there's a coal power station close to, I don't know where the coal power stations are situated, but there's a coal power station somewhere. And that's transmitting energy to a distribution center. Right? And that's given it to the neighboring town. Now what we have is we have different places of generation. So imagine, for example, in the North Sea, we have Dogger Bank, which is an offshore wind farm.
Okay.
So it's in the sea. It's the wind, the wind turbines.
Okay, is that where it's located?
Yeah.
Okay.
So some of them are in the sea, some of them are onshore, so on land. You've seen wind turbines on land. And when lots of them are together, it's a wind farm. And so now it's offshore. So now we have to build transmission from that offshore to the land. And so the grid isn't designed to do that because we didn't need that before. And for the past 50 years, we haven't done all the updates that we needed. And now we've reached a point where we're like, this needs to be replaced. So one, there is the designing the new grid for our new needs today. And then two, there's replacing and upgrading the grid for anything that we've missed, right? And those two are one thing, and that's like adding to the cost. And so it's an interesting one because renewables itself, the cost of renewables, like in the long term, after all of this is done, is less.
Yeah.
However, we're feeling it now because we're building all the infrastructure to support it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. All right, ChatGPT, let's see what else you got. 1 second. Right. Forget that. I have a question. Houses. What is an EPC rating and how are houses impacted by them?
That's a great question.
For the consumer. When you're renting stuff, when you're looking, you are looking, what's the EPC rate? Is it C, B, A, F,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the full word is. We can probably Google
I don't know what
that.
acronym means.
Yeah. I don't know what the acronym means either. But the rating is basically like how energy efficient is your home.
Yeah.
So do you have fluorescent light bulbs that are draining energy, or do you have energy efficient light bulbs? Are you using a heat pump, for example, or are you using a geyser? Are you using
Using a geyser? What's that?
Like, how do you heat your water?
A geyser? What's a geyser?
Is that not a UK thing?
No. I've never heard of that term. I know what a geyser is. A geyser is like a little, it is more natural. It's like a hole that brings up in the cupboard.
Yes, yes, a boiler. Yeah. In South Africa, it's called a geyser.
Okay.
I was like, what? What do you use?
You enter a meeting and be like, oh, my geezer's not working today. And everyone will listen at you like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, sorry. That happens often. There's lots of different
honestly, as English as I sound, I come from a Nigerian household. There's a lot of words that I say in the office. So what are you talking about? I'm like,
I also have that often where I'm like, oh, I got this from X store. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, that's the most common store. And I'm like, oh, wait, it's common in South Africa. Not here. Shit.
Yeah,
shit.
Quite literally.
So no, sorry, a boiler.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you for helping me with that. So a boiler or a heat pump. So how efficient is your house? And lower your rating, the more or less efficient your house is.
Yeah.
So do you have double
glazing?
Yes.
Windows.
And does that help? Does that not help?
Keep heating.
So the higher your rating, the better it is for you because that means you're not of different things, I would think, yeah.
And could an EPC rating be changed over time?
Yeah.
So let's say, I don't know, you're putting your house up for sale. When you bought the house, it was rated D and you did all the insulation and da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Could you get it
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely. I saw this really cool, I'm going to butcher this now because I don't remember exact names, but there was someone in the Northwest who has revamped an old church to make it super, super energy efficient. So it basically is off the grid. They have solar panels on the roof. They have conversions inside at the bottom underground of the church. And the church is basically off grid.
Wow.
Surviving by itself.
Well, my next thing I'm going to say, I've been contemplating if I want to say it or not, but it's a fun fact and it's energy related, but it's actually not. I have a fear, and the fear is called, if I pronounce it correctly, megalophobia. I don't like giant things, but for me specifically, it's things that are supposed to be small that are now big. And in the energy field, I hate looking at wind turbines. They freak me out. Oh my God. I was driving to Birmingham the other day and on the approach, there's like a wind farm. And I was literally sweating at the steering wheel. I don't know what it is about them. It looks like hand fans to me. Yeah. So in my head, I'm thinking, why is it so big in the sky? Like, it stresses me out. Now, even though you guys found out a fun fact about me, why are wind turbines so big?
Yeah.
I get it. I do get it, but is there any way it can be smaller? You see how over time, like TVs, they started off really big and chunky, then over time they got really nice and thin. Like, is there a way that we can get energy better with smaller wind turbines in time or not?
Okay, first tell me what you understand they do.
In my head, in Chloe's head, I guess you want to collect as much wind, so you need big wings or some sort of apparatus to collect more. Yeah. So I understand why it's big.
Yeah.
But also understand science is a great thing. Engineering is a fantastic thing in this life. And we've seen things that started off really big.
Yeah.
That became a lot significantly smaller. I'm not talking about this big, but significantly smaller. And still produce either better quality of whatever product it's trying to produce. So I was wondering, is that in the works, or our wind turbines are forever going to be that large and freak people like me out?
Okay, so firstly, the wings are called blades.
See? I don't care to know what any part of this thing is. I don't want to know.
And basically, they put like
blades,
the structure. So they put down a floor,
okay.
Right? I'm going to explain to you in the non-engineering terms. So they put down the floor, then they put down like the trunk.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they stick the blades on.
Yeah.
And that's a really fucking cool process. Like, imagine someone like getting that, putting it on. Like, imagine this powerhouse female building this wind turbine.
Yeah, I'm just envisioning it and it's creeping me out. But continue.
No, it shouldn't be creeping you out. Think about power strong woman building this wind turbine.
I hear it.
Yeah.
Doing our big ones, yeah.
That's what I want you to think of. Yeah. Like, there's some really cool women working in the energy space. And I'm going to hold your hand when I say this. Come on. They are getting bigger.
Oh, no, God. Like, gosh.
So the bigger they are, the more wind they collect, obviously, and the more energy it generates. And it's in one place. So it's taking more energy as like one location rather than putting multiple of them all at the same time. However, that doesn't negate your question of, or your thought of, it can be smaller and there probably are people who are looking at ways to make it smaller and generate more or the same amount of energy. And one of the things we have in the energy industry is NIMBYism. So not in my backyard.
Okay.
And that is people of the community who are like, I do not want a wind turbine in my backyard or in my community.
Because it's hideous.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's those kind of people.
You know them. They're horrible. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure people have different reasons, but you know mine now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so people have different reasons. You're correct. Because they don't want to lose the aesthetics of their property. They go, property value is going to go down. If you're living on the coast, you don't want this big wind turbine blocking your view of the sea, etc. So people have concerns and appreciate they have valid concerns. Maybe they're afraid of how big it is. Yeah. But I think it's important to understand that it's doing what function is it serving? And so that's harnessing the wind. So the UK has a lot of wind. A lot of wind. And right now that wind is freezing. But that generates energy and we're using that free wind to generate energy that is clean. And what that means is if we're not using coal, Chloe is getting to live in an environment where the air isn't polluted, where you can breathe properly. Been lots of studies of like people living in close proximity to mining areas or coal areas and having lots of illnesses, etc. So it's almost it's life, okay? We're not going to get everything we want.
I know.
And there are trade-offs and there are balances that we have to make. And so when you see that hideous wind turbine, the things I want you to remember is that, one, you're getting clean energy. Your children, should you have children, or your family, or your mom, your sisters, all of those people are getting access to clean energy. They're getting access to a cleaner environment. There are people probably and hopefully in your family and in your bloodline and your friends who are going to be working in the energy industry and they're going to be driving that forward. And so that is economic empowerment and it's open to everyone. So it's equal economic empowerment. And that's really, really cool. And that's the things we have to remember, that like doesn't look that great, but it's giving us access to so many beautiful things. And if you had to pick between clean air
and whether it's an eyesore or something scary.
Or something scary that maybe in time you could get used to looking at.
Can't get used to it, but I can appreciate what it's doing, so I can turn a blind eye sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's so sad that you feel that way. I see a wind turbine. Oh my God, it's so big.
It creeps me out. It creeps me out. I like, and that's just me. Like, I know a lot of people that have the same fear that I do, and it comes in different variations. For me, it's like objects that shouldn't be that big in the sky. It really, really shouldn't. It creeps me out. But I can understand its purpose and I can appreciate it. But I just thought, maybe, the way science is going and engineering is going, I thought they can just wrap it up quickly, sort it out.
Potential in a potential future, it will be smaller in communities. So think about the bigness because it's serving lots of people. So there's potential that you could have smaller wind turbines in, for example, your backyard. And what that would do, so that's the future of energy, is that Chloe has a wind turbine in her backyard, or, for example, a whole bunch of solar panels on her roof. So you're making your own energy, but you only use 90 pounds of it, or however many megawatts that is. You only use X amount. So all of the excess that you're generating, you can power your neighbor, the side, that side, behind you, that side. And so what the future of energy looks like is what we call microgrids. So instead of having this huge grid, right, and this huge distribution centers and one place of generation, we actually have communities generating energy. And so you become not just the consumer, but the provider as well.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And so you can then sell that energy back to the grid. So maybe you can sell it to your neighbors, or you could sell it back to the grid. So let's say, for example, there's lots of demand for whatever reason, and you can sell it back and then pay less energy. There's also a thing where people are looking at EV vehicles. So, your
electric cars.
Electric vehicle. Yeah. Yes, you charge it, but people are looking at how does the electric vehicle actually power your house, or sell money back to the energy industry, or put it back into the grid. So
when you charge the car?
Yes.
Okay.
So when you charge the car, you're taking energy out of the car, right?
Yeah.
Out of the grid.
Yeah.
And then it goes into the car. And then it chills there until you're using the car. But when you're not using the car, it has a battery. And so basically what they're saying is, for all of the time you're sleeping, you're not using that car, but it has a battery, so it can send energy back to the grid.
Wow, guys.
Pull it when it needs it.
Yeah.
And then send it back when it doesn't. And what that does is you're sending back energy, so it lowers your bills. So there is flexibility in renewable energy.
That's really cool. Really, really cool.
Moving the power to the people.
That's really cool. My mind is blown, guys.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And that's the future of energy. And that's only possible if we have renewables. Like, there's no Chloe owning her own little coal mine in her backyard. Yes.
Yeah.
That is the future. And I think that's exactly like you said. And then maybe it becomes less of an importance of like have a wind farm, a wind turbine, probably not a wind farm.
Yeah.
Maybe hopefully you do want a wind farm because then you power more people.
Exactly.
Yeah. So maybe now when you see the big ones, you're like, I need a smaller version for my home so I can bring down energy and I can become the energy new business venture.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
I think that's all my questions for now.
That is a brilliant set of questions.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Our final question.
Yes.
That, we ask all of our people.
Yeah.
Obviously you're not in the energy industry, but you've had a beautiful career across building a business, looking at recruitment, working in prisons, and now you are a energy SME. Looking back at your career and everything that you know, if you were to give a young Chloe some advice at the start of her career, what would that advice be?
At the start of my career, I would say don't rush into university before you go to university, go and see the world a little bit. Not when I say that, I don't mean travel. Work, see different industries, see what you might like. Do a bit of research, because I feel like I entered the because people don't understand, if you're going to enter these institutions, especially university that you have to pay for, do something that's related to the life that you want. Now, I know a lot of the time people don't end up doing the degree that they chose, but I feel like if I just took some time to see what I really liked, I probably would have chose something slightly closer to what I really want to do. And right now, I'm kind of going backwards to get what I need to get to where I need to go next. And I think, I mean, at the time, I had the pressure of culture and all that stuff on my back. And if I had to go back, is don't listen to what they're saying. The world still goes on. You're still going to wake up and, God willing anyway, God will give you life to see the next day. Find out what you really, really like to do and then go for it. And that could mean whatever you enjoy, like what your personality is. And I think people don't tap into that. I guess maybe more of our generation, we wasn't really given as much of an opportunity to tap into it. Just, oh yeah, Chloe likes makeup, or Chloe likes drawing. Oh yeah, she likes to sing, make videos. But like, I've been doing it for years, so clearly there's something going on there. Yeah. So yeah, zone into your hobbies, what you like, what interests you in it. Maybe you'll land on something close to what you find in the future, what you want to do in the future.
That is really, really brilliant advice. I think, and I'm so glad you touched on the social pressures. I don't think we have a social system. I mean, at least back when I was studying and figuring out what I wanted to do, we didn't have a social system that said, let's think about this.
Literally, my degree, I didn't know what to do. I called my friend and said, what are you doing? She said she's doing international business. I said, okay. That's literally what happened, because I didn't know what to choose, but all I knew, I needed to enter the university that my mum has been praying for at that point 18 years of my life. So I just didn't know what to do, and I kicked myself for it, because there was apprenticeships in like BBC and things I wanted to do. I knew I liked media, but I didn't know how to get into it. So I said, let me just choose something safe. But if I had the knowledge I had now, or the guidance, even my I just think it's the time. Like my younger cousins now, they didn't need our guidance for them to choose what they want to do in life. It was just a different time, you know?
Yeah.
This, TikTok's around, people are doing things. So they're like more confident in choosing what they want.
That's
whereas
beautiful.
Even 10 years ago, 2016, almost 10 years ago when I started uni, it was, there wasn't as much exposure. You kind of just did what your siblings did and go about your business, really. Yeah, I love the fact that it's changing. I love the fact that our young people are becoming more vocal on what they want and how they feel. And in terms of the energy industry, there's always going to be a gap in any industry when it comes to women. So if you heard anything that I've said, anything that Zenobia said that, intrigued you, just do a little bit of research about it, because you never know what rabbit hole you're going to enter when you start researching certain things, But my last question to you, actually.
Yeah.
What has been your career path so far, and where would you like to go to when it comes to the energy field?
So my career path has been, I'm an accountant by trade.
Yes.
I did my articles, and then I moved into consulting, strategy consulting, and I work in the mining industry for a bit. Again, that power of community, that's why I stayed, lots of community work. Love it. And then I moved to the UK for love, but that didn't work out. See, but it's led me here, and it's beautiful. I wouldn't change my adventure at all or anything. And then the UK, at the time when I joined, the mining industry was not that great, or it wasn't just very opportunistic at that point. So then I got involved in power and utilities, and that's the energy stuff now. And I just love the sector. I love what we're doing, what we're driving, what the purpose is behind it. And the future of it is so exciting to be able to put that power into people's hands, but more importantly, give power to people who don't have power. That for me is really, really important to make sure that everyone is brought along onto the journey. So I think in the future, where I would like to see is that community discussion being at the heart of it. And I think there are pockets of that happen really, really well, but it's really hard. There's so many things to juggle. There's so many competing priorities. And so it's really difficult. So for me, what success would look like in my career is if I look back when I'm 700 years old and I'm sitting in my rocking chair and I'm like, did I live a good life? I want to know that every conversation, every meeting that I was in, every time I put my opinion down on paper or someone asked me a question, or like someone said something, I was there to rise to the challenge of, but have you considered this?
Yeah.
So my most important thing is, have you considered Africa? Have we considered not even just Africa? Have we considered people in the UK who are struggling to pay their bills? Like, have we considered that there are people in the UK who don't have homes and are like impacted by the freezing ass cold outside? Like, have we considered all of these people who are much older and are taking care of themselves and don't really don't have energy knowledge? Like, are we considering everybody, like small, medium, large, across all of those spheres and bringing them in? And it's like, some people find me quite annoying, which fair. But like, I continuously bang on about it and I'm unapologetic about it. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for asking these questions. It was so brilliant.
Was this your favourite pod?
Hey?
Has this been your favourite episode so far?
Of course.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes.
Awesome. I think that is
a ridiculously cool, super cool episode. I honestly loved every single bit of that conversation, except the parts where I didn't know what was the answer, because awkward, but it meant that I get to learn new stuff but also learn other people's perspective. And I think that's like the most important part here, is to have the conversations with the people who feel like, oh my God, I hate wind turbines, to help them understand what are wind turbines doing and why is it important, and help people navigate their way through the energy industry and the change that we're going through. Like, it isn't easy. It isn't something people necessarily know about, learn about. And so that's the point of the conversation. And it brings us closer to our purpose of breaking barriers and building the future together. And honestly, like, it makes me so happy deep down, right down into my core, that I love the opportunity that I have to create this. So I wanted to say thank you for listening. Thank you for continuing to listen. Thank you for supporting the podcast and for giving us purpose. We are always looking for new guests, new people, and also a new podcast studio, actually, which is so sad. So for our next podcast, admittedly, I don't have that planned as yet. The truth is that unfortunately Chloe's studio, at least the one that we used to be situated in Bermondsey, has closed, and only the Bromley by Bow studios are still open. So we are currently in the process of looking for new podcast studios and also new guests. This conversation has re-energized us, made us feel much cooler, much closer to our purpose. So we're definitely going to continue. We're just in the background. Until then, keep connecting with us, and thank you. Bye.